Hello everyone, welcome to Nayadin once again. We were here last week. Once again, we are here with Nadeem Qureshi as our guest. He'll bring us some more of his experience and knowledge to share with us. And today's topic we are discussing is changing mind as to how we can change people's mind or how we can change our own mind. So Nadeem, just give us a little bit of detail about what do you intend to discuss in today's topic. What is like set the groundwork for it today.
I think the interesting thing is to way to explain it by saying it's all about changing mindsets. And given that we've just had the elections and politics and everything, how do we change people's mindset to vote for you? And so politicians are very interested in this subject. So how did Karl Marx or Lenin bring about the revolution? He must have changed quite a few mindsets to be able to follow him.
So, we should I think also include Hitler in that list because it's still changing mindsets, right?
So mindset. So what was it that what were the characteristics or what were the ingredients they used to change people's mindsets? So it's a very big topic nowadays. Is how do we change mindsets? How do we actually influence people? How do we actually get even the person who's a manager at work? How does he change some of the mindsets or the thinking of some of the staff that he or she has to manage? So the thing is that mindset is a very, very big subject in leadership. That how does a leader get the people to follow him? How does he convince them that his vision is the correct one? So does he need to change anybody's mindset? Because there'll be certain mindsets which are not open to change. So how will he change the mindset to make it open to change? How will he convince them that his or her vision is the vision to follow? So this is a very interesting subject, and that was the context. The reason why this subject actually arose was when I first gave the talk. Somebody from the audience, I gave a talk on leadership, and somebody said from the audience, "Can you do a talk on change mindset? Because we have problems with XYZ boards and committees, etc. And they're very traditional minded. They're very set in very old kind of thinking. How do we get them to change their mindsets? How do we get them to change the way they think?" So mindset is a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines one's behavior, outlook, and mental attitude. So that's what a mindset is. So how do we change some of that attitude and mental attitude and behavior of people to get them to follow a particular direction? So mindset is an extremely important subject for leadership practitioners.
Okay, so give us a little bit of let's divide this topic up. Let's segment it into a few parts and tell us like how you want to go about it.
Sure. First of all, we need to look at how a particular mindset is formed, and then go into and then going deeper in terms of how the mindset is informed. Things looking at their beliefs, their cultural side, experiences, genetics, even those kind of things. How does a person's mindset get formed? So that's one of the areas we want to look at. The next area want to look at is basically let me just come down, is how does mindset work? What does a mindset actually do for how does it translate into action for a person? And we have to look at mindsets that they're unique to everybody, and so we'll look at that as well. And then we can look at why I've also already mentioned that it's our mindset. Interestingly enough, for an individual, why mindset is so important for that individual to study as well, because the mindset sometimes limits our progress as a human race. So if our mindset is that we can't do this, then we can't do this, but it's just a mindset that's blocking us from progressing.
So we have already defeated ourselves.
Bullseye. So for the individual as well, mindset is very important for individuals to actually get a hold of. For leaders, it's absolutely essential. They need to know how their own mind works before they can study how other people's minds work as well.
Okay.
So those are some of the areas that we'll look at, and then you look at how mindset has actually sort of shaped the world. If you want to change any aspects of our lives, for instance, right? So, for instance, right, if we want to change a particular aspect of our life, and we still keep on getting the same results, there's something in our behavior we aren't changing. And some people think, leaders have this thing completely wrong. And it comes from very traditional leadership styles. So the traditional leadership style is very authoritarian. So I say, Shamoon, you do this. And Shamoon does it, right? But today, no, I've got to make it interesting for Shamoon. I've got to inspire Shamoon. I've got to motivate Shamoon to be able to do something. But what if his mindset is not accepting of me? His mindset may not even accept my leadership. His mindset might be a totally different mindset. He doesn't want to change.
Yeah. So I'll give an example here and tell me how this fits into this whole structure, right? So, and I'm talking about relationship because this applies in relationships as well as professional environment. Your mindset would impact both. So, I'll take an example of husband and wife having an argument, right? And husband is not able to convince the wife. They have hours on end. They have gone into discussions husband trying to convince the wife to do something certain way, and she's not convinced. But all of a sudden, he says one small little thing that he thinks is inconsequential to say, and all of a sudden she says, "Really? Yeah, that makes complete sense."
Absolutely.
Right? So it's the matter of, as I'm understanding from what you're telling us, that it's the matter of the person that you're communicating to understand them and understand what would trigger them or what would get them convinced or what would make them understand in order to be effective in that changing their mind.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's two things, isn't there? When you look at the husband and wife thing, let me just bring it back.
So I think you have made the notes that you're reading from.
I have.
Yeah, that's good.
Because the thing is with the mindset change, one of the things I have to say when it comes to husband and wife, that there's different triggers. The one thing that you must remember, mindset is not prone to change by rationale. Right?
Yeah, that's a very key thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We always think it's the rationale that would change mind.
It doesn't. It doesn't change that. It actually doesn't. So for instance, right, I gave the example last week. You say, this is the iPhone. It does this, and it does more than what your Motorola does. They say, no, we want the Motorola. We want the Motorola. That's it. Right? So the rational mind will think, no, this is good. But the thing is, we don't actually, when we make decisions inside our heads, we don't actually make them with the rational mind. We actually make them with the subconscious mind and the bit which is emotion, which drives our emotions. It's the emotions that drive us to actions. So it's energy in motion, if you like. So it's the emotion that actually drives the action, not the rationale. The rationale helps prevent us from overdoing something. It can prevent us from. It can save us. And sometimes, yes, 5% of the decisions we will make based on a calculated decision, but 95% of the decisions we will make in our lives will be purely based on our instinct and intuition and our gut reaction, our emotion, not our rational thinking brain. So because we a lot of 95% of our actions are determined by the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind does not work on rationalism. What it can work on is things like, so for instance, right, the thing is that in terms of somebody's mindset, their mindset is influenced by 4 areas, you can say. They can be culture, their beliefs, their experiences, and genetics. So for instance, right, when you've grown up, you have a fear of certain things. You have a fear of trying certain things. Somewhere when you were a child, in your mind, somebody said, don't do this. And हमारी ज़बान में मैं बोलता हूँ Asian families में ऐसा ना करें, ये गिर जाएगा, ये होगा, ये वो होगा, वो डर पड़ जाता है बच्चे में. वो डर जो है ना, वो अपने आप को जाहिर करता है जब वो बड़ा होता है. वो उसको खुद भी नहीं पता चलता मैं इस चीज से क्यों डरता हूँ. So ऐसे होता है, it's like this, and so when you grow up, you sometimes don't even realize why are you afraid of certain things, because somebody put that into your mind. Also, some people's progress is inhibited because they were culturally brought up to say You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. I once delivered a talk many years ago, about over 20 years ago, and there was a young woman who she must have been early 20s, and she came to me during lunchtime. I've given the talk in the morning, and at lunchtime she came to me and she said, "Yeah, you know," and she was nearly in tears. She was very emotionally overcome. And I said, "What's happened?" And she said, "All my life, I've been having people tell me I can't do something. And for the first time, somebody has convinced me I can do something, and I will do it." So emotionally, she was charged now, and she learned that she actually can do something. But the point I'm making, her mindset had become established that she cannot do anything, and that was purely because her influences were her family, her friends. They always said to her, "You cannot do this. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. You cannot do." So she just brought up, "I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this." So you see, mindset is such a very important. It's a powerful tool, and when we bring our children up, is we must be very clear what kind of a mindset are we giving our children when they grow up, right? Is it a mindset that's going to help them later on in life? Is it a growth mindset, or is it a fixed mindset which sort of says, "Oh, they're talented. They only have to be gifted. They have to be gifted to be able to do well in life"? No, 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 no. They can develop their talent, and they can develop certain things. They can work hard. They can do certain things. They can train themselves. They can learn things, and so on and so forth. So, Shamoon, you know, those kind of things are very. The mindset is a very important subject area for parents also, that they need to know exactly what kind of education are we giving our child. Are we giving the child a growth mindset education where they will succeed in life, or fixed mindset where they will make it difficult for themselves, where they say I either can do it or either can't do it. And in our world, in the leadership world, my motto is that you always say, you know, "I can't do this," but you add the word "yet" at the end of the day, at the end of that sentence. When you say "I can't do this," you add "yet." I can't do this yet.
So then it's basically saying that it's just there are some obstacles that need to be overcome.
Yeah, but I can do it.
Yeah.
So Google, they once I gave the example, I think somebody told me in Google, and I hope I get this right. They said that the way that the Google treated their staff was that they would not allow them to say, "We cannot do this." So they would sort of say, if they had a wall, and they said, "Look, we can't get through this wall," and they said, "Well, okay, here's a ladder. Can you get over the wall?" Right? And then they would sort of say, and they said, "No, the wall's too high." "Okay, here's a spade. Can you get under the wall?" But they would not take no for an answer. Can you here's an explosive. Can you blow up the wall? Do you see what I mean? But the wall must come down. So this is a very powerful mindset which says, "I'm not going to allow any barriers. I'm not going to allow any blockages." See how they're building the mindset. So sometimes also, Shamoon, there's genetics as well that determine our minds. Our blood side as well. Genetics kick in as well. So in leadership, they actually found there is a leadership gene actually within us all, that we have leadership, or within leaders they have this. They isolated a gene, and there was a leadership gene. So genetics does influence you as well in these kind of things. So the kind of mindset that you might have. But my belief is, I'm of the school of thought which says you can change some of that. Okay, you can change the mindset. You can actually change some of the way that you think, and I think it's a combination of using your genetics in a more productive way, and combining them with the environment that you're in, or being in an environment which is going to produce a different type of result. So it's both the environment and the genetics, getting them to work together to actually find a way forward and to change your behavior.
Interesting. What I'm wondering here is, you already stated that it's possible to change your mindset if you do these certain things,
Sure.
Right? But I think an obstacle, an individual that's coming from that background, let's say if I'm an individual that's coming from that background that says that, you know what, there are these walls around me, I cannot go beyond this. This is it, right? I can never become a billionaire, right? I can never be get PhD, right? So it can be any sort of goal. I can never have a beautiful wife, or I can never have amazing children, right? Because I'm going to the things that you might not control per se, right? So if you have this mindset, how do you change it, and what kind of impact can it create on your work, personal life, social life, or whatever it may be?
Yeah. If you had ever heard of the law of attraction, whatever you sort of think about, you will attract to you. Okay,
Hmm.
but this is how that works. But in Islam, there's it's very interesting, very interesting. Why this particular saying of the Prophet, this hadith from the Prophet, he gives a hadith. The very first hadith is on this point. You know that because you reminded me when you said when you said I will never have a beautiful wife. Then
Yeah.
that reminded me of the hadith, right? So
Hmm.
in the hadith, the very first thing, have you ever heard of Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith? 40 hadith of
I think so. I
Imam
think.
Nawawi. He was in 13th century scholar, right? So
Hmm.
he wrote the 40 hadith, and it was a facility that he created. He said, I want to make it for easy for ordinary people to understand this. They can't learn 100,000 hadiths. They don't have time to study all of this. So if they learn these 40 of these, they'll cover all the whole religion. So I make it easy for ordinary people. You know, people like me, I don't have time to study this many books, and I don't have time to do this and do this. So he made it easy. So the very first hadith he chooses is the one on intentions. That
Hmm.
man, gets according to his intentions. Okay. So the beauty of that particular thing is it's laying down the law of God. That law of nature is saying that whatever you focus on, whatever you intend, you will get. Right. So there is nothing in terms of saying you can't get this. You have to make the intention, and it depends on how much focused you are on that and how much you want it, that you will get it. Right.
Hmm.
So what people say is that some scientists have said, if you draw a picture if you draw a picture of all the things that you want, and if you look at them every single day you look at them, what it's doing is you're brainwashing your mind. You're putting everything into your mind, because this is how adverts work on TV as well. This is exactly the same principle. So instead of that, you put all the things that you want and you keep on looking at them. You then start doing, automatically you'll find yourself making plans for those things, because now the subconscious mind is saying, I have these things, and it will work towards, it'll influence your behavior to obtain those very things. But you won't, you'll go in automatic mode, but you have to see those visually, because the subconscious mind works by pictures. It actually doesn't work by words. It can't do anything in words. It always does it in motion and pictures, and that's how it determines you. So sometimes you don't realize why you're doing something, and all of a sudden you're doing it. For instance, right, when I had somebody in my class, she was 57-year-old Pakistani woman, right? And she came to my class, and she hadn't, the one thing that she wanted to do, and she had developed a mindset. Her mindset was also negative. Her husband saying, look, क्या करती है, मेरे साथ आए, मेरी फैक्ट्री में काम करें, ये छोड़ें सब कुछ, जो कुछ आप खुद अपने, वो उसकी अपनी ख्वाहिश उन्होंने छोड़ी नहीं.
Hmm.
वो उसने अपनी ख्वाहिशें जो थी ना, वो बिल्कुल she completely got rid of all the wishes, and she became very, very, if you like, withdrawn. So
Hmm.
when I said to her this thing, and I said there's various things you can do to start changing the mindset. So I said, the night before, before you go to sleep, write down 3 things that you're going to do in the morning, the following day. And then when you do that, the next night, you tick those off that you've done them. And they don't have to be very hard things. They don't have to be.
Yeah.
You know what? Her love was to start reading again regularly. Right? Just read a book. Just to be able to read a book. Because her daughter was saying, Mum, you can't do this. Her husband saying, my wife, you can't do this. Right? And she was thinking, where do I go? I have no wishes and desires of my own, and I might as well just bury them now. And she buried her own wishes and desires. So I said, look, try this. And slowly, she started doing certain things in the house. And she started all changing the way. And her husband noticed. He said, 20 years I've been trying certain things. And this time you just done it. You just done it. I said, these techniques, right, that you can employ, like these techniques, they start changing your behavior. So certain practices, if you repeat them over and over again, it takes you, scientists say, 40 days, 40 to 60 days. Sometimes they say 40 days, sometimes they say 60 days. But if you constantly practice it, it becomes part of your habit. And when it becomes part of your habit, it'll influence your mindset as well. So the thing is that those kind of things have a major impact. Going back to the Holy Prophet saying, what he was saying was, when you said about not having the Holy Prophet actually says, when a man tends to, he migrates for the will of God, right, then he will find God, right? If he migrates for the will of Allah and his Prophet, then he will find Allah and his Prophet. But if he migrates for some worldly thing, he will find that worldly thing. But the last thing he said, that if he migrates for the purpose of finding a wife, he will find the wife.
Okay.
You see, Shamoon, there's so much, hidden. Sometimes I come to very conflicts with some of our Islamic, preachers and everything, because they've missed these very laws of nature within the Hadith and within the Quran. They completely miss them, and they just do a very, very kind of narrow sort of. They give a very narrow understanding of Islam, and Islam it's so beautiful that
I think we lost you up there. Yeah.
I'll do that later in the break. I'll turn the no disturb on. So the thing is that is the beauty of some of what's hidden there is sometimes missed, and they don't realize there's these deep psychological sort of, if you like, formulas that are hidden within those hadiths that they describe the laws of nature. They actually don't. The Prophet's telling you this is how the world works. This is how nature works. And you have to be careful as to what you do. Now, in leadership, we use words like focus. In Punjabi, in Urdu, we use words like niyat. We use words like twaja. Those kind of words. But they're all the same thing. It's whatever you focus on, you'll go towards it. Whatever you focus on, whether you like it or not, you will end up with that. And it's the same thing with sometimes, people are saying now with this COVID-19. If you think too much about it, you're attracting that disease to yourself.
Yeah, let's go to that point for a second. Sure. So for example, COVID-19. Sure. Let's take it from the perspective of stress. Stress is a very common thing in everyone's life, may it be at work, may it be at home, right? So do you think that there is a way that we can tune ourselves to reduce or get rid of stress per se without having to take medication, just by changing our mindset?
Absolutely, you can. And I've just recently started working for an organization, a mental health organization. And that mental health organization does exactly that. Their therapies and their remedies include talking therapies. And they include those talking therapies, and they get people away off the medicines and get them just through changing the way that they think, the way that they perceive the world, and changing those. And so sometimes, right, Shamoon, what people do is they confuse culture with religious beliefs. So some of our people, they confuse culture with religious beliefs. Sometimes they have financial problems. The financial problem will not go away, Shamoon, by me paying your debt. It will not go away. The financial problem is you, because you are not financially confident. You are not financially trained. You're not financially resilient, mentally resilient. To sort of say, Shamoon, there's people in the world with debt. You will know this, some people with debt. But why are they not feeling stressed? Right?
Yeah.
But they may not show you any stress. They won't feel any stress. But then there's somebody else and they're feeling stressed. And you sort of say, Shamoon, you'll say to yourself, why is this friend of mine not feeling stressed? He's got debt. And this friend of mine, he's feeling stressed. And he's got less debt than this person has. So there's a difference in how our minds cope with certain things. And that is, again, the mindset that you have that, allows you to cope with that. So if your mindset is, look, I'm going to work for this, I'll get rid of that debt. No, that's not a worry. That's not a big deal. You're going to do that. So you're constantly, it doesn't matter if you have debt, but you're constantly on top of it. You will do something towards making sure that you manage it. So it's learning how to manage the debt rather than actually getting rid of it. So the main thing is having that confidence. It's good to get rid of it. The first thing you should do is get rid of the debt, but learn how to manage your finances or learn how to manage. So that reduces the kind of stress. So some of that, I've just been talking to, yesterday I was in a meeting on this particular subject, and I was saying that's one of the areas that you need to look at is talk to people about, nobody can come along and no matter how much money they give you, it will solve all your financial problems, because the problem is not the money, it's you.
Yeah, that's why there are rich people that are extremely stressed out, and then there are poor people that are extremely happy sometimes.
That's
right?
the opposite. Yeah, that's the opposite. Absolutely. And that's the point where the rich people are sort of saying, why is my life still empty? I've got everything in the world, but inside I feel completely hollow.
Yeah. Because money can buy you things, but money can't buy you happiness.
But it's a mindset that they've got inside which hasn't changed, right? So the thing is that, you know, the thing with this mindset is such a powerful tool. It hits so many areas, and with mental health, I was about to say, on the mental health side, the stress that is caused is sometimes that, you know, people are confused and they lack quite a bit of knowledge in terms of how to deal with their stress. So sometimes, you know, religious personalities. I was part of a survey. They took a survey in Burnley Borough Council, and they found that in Burnley that the people who are very religiously orientated, they coped better with stress. So whether you're a Christian, Muslim, Jew, doesn't matter, but your religion helped you to cope with the stress.
Why is that though? Why do you think? Because you know, like people would ask here, right? An average person, if let's say if it's a Muslim person would say, well, I can understand why my religion allows me to cope with stress. I do not understand why Christians would feel that way or Hindus would feel that way.
I can explain that. Even take Sikhs, for instance, right? The one common factor within all of those faiths is the factor of hope. Do you see that? Hope is there with Jesus. Hope is there with Moses. Hope is there with God. Hope is there with the, you know, Muhammad, peace be upon him. Hope is there with Baba Guru Nanak, and it's all hope. So they always have a positive thing. So the Hindu will sort of say, when I go to this God, I get hope. You know, if nothing else, I have hope that this will happen. So and hope is a positive feeling. And in Islam, we have the added problem. We don't have a problem. We have an added strength. The added strength is that Allah has made it. He said this is how He wants you to cope with stress. He's saying that I've made despair forbidden. Despair is haram, right? You don't like to eat haram meat. He said despair is haram. That's it. Mayusi is haram, and you cannot despair. So in Islam, if you bring your kids saying there's no despair, look, everything's going to be okay. You're having difficulties now, but the difficulties don't last. You're going to be okay. So what you constantly build your kids up like that, they will start thinking, "Oh, right, fine. You know, we're going to have some problems now, but we're going to overcome them. Sooner or later, we'll overcome them." Do you see the mindset that's forming there? Now, in some cases where mindsets are embedded, how do we get somebody to change those mindsets? Right there, we have to appeal to their beliefs and really have to. So, for instance, right, the people who wouldn't buy the iPhone and the Motorola, they had a strong belief, right, and an emotional attachment to their Motorola. There's nothing you can do about it, unless, of course, the Motorola people said to them, "Our phone now." The Motorola people, right, are deciding that they will employ iPhone technologies within the Motorola, and then they will have it. So their trust is in the brand, in that particular company, right? And then they will do that. So, for instance, right, there's a big example, another one from Holy Prophet's time. Hazrat Abu Bakr, he's approached by non-Muslims, and they think they've got him today. They've cornered him from the argument point of view. They said, what if somebody said to you that they went to the heavens in the blinking of an eyelid, and they led the prophets in prayer, and they went on a heavenly horse. They met, and he says, "Well, I wouldn't believe them if they did it in blinking of an eyelid." So the non-Muslims say, "Whoa, you wouldn't believe that person." He says, "No, I wouldn't believe that person." And then they said to him, "Well, your Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he says that he claims this, right?" And he said, "Well, if he claims it, then I believe it." So the factor is that is a factor of from that you learn that the way that the mind works is trust. So the mindset has now changed. That hold on a bit, he had a mindset which said, "I don't believe this kind of a person." You see, the lesson that's being taught to us is there's a change in the mindset, and this is how the mindset changes. Because his mindset was, if somebody said that to me now, I wouldn't believe it. I just wouldn't believe it. But because Prophet Muhammad said it, right, I believe it. Mindset
So
changes.
that's where the credibility comes in, right?
Yeah. So what is, in terms of credibility, Shamoon, what happens before even the prophet declares his prophethood? What is he known as? He's known as a very credible person in Mecca that everybody trusts. So he built his credibility to the age of 40. He was already a credible member of society, a trusted person of society. In fact, he was so trusted and honest in his dealings that Hazrat Khadija, she actually proposed to him. She actually said to him. So, again, when we talk about this, there's a mindset in our Asian communities that says, "Oh, mera bacha ye इतनी उम्र सीधा औरत के साथ शादी कर रहा है, ये ऐसे नहीं हो सकता, कभी भी नहीं हो सकता." And yet, you see, mindset. Where's our mindset come from? So there's these kind of things. So with mindset, that is a very good example where Hazrat Abu Bakr, he changes his mindset from one which says, "I don't believe in these things," to another, "I believe in this." So when you approach certain people, you have to use the people that they trust. And those kind of people, when they say something, they will change. They will do some changes, right? And you have to find some of those people, and they are there. It takes a bit of time, but
it has to be, the mindset can happen when it comes from a credible source.
Credible source, either in terms of knowledge, a credible source of knowledge, a credible piece of research. Also, Shamoon, politicians, they use credible pieces of research, and the research has to be credible.
We use scholarly articles in order to.
There you go. Why would you do that? Are they buying the article, or are they buying the scholar? They're buying the scholar, because they're saying, "Shamoon, if you got it from that scholar, I'm agreeing with you," right? They're buying on the basis that they trust science rather than trust you. They will trust the science. Okay. Yeah. So I had this. Somebody gave me a lecture the other day about this point. They said when we do research, because they were going for a job as a research and a research and policy officer. So they have to do research to influence policy, to develop new policy, etc. And the one thing they said is that I cannot influence policy. Nobody will listen. Nobody will read my research, no matter how good it is, right? But it has to be validated by somebody as being very credible. And so therefore I have to make sure that my research is robust, that I've done everything possible and I've done everything in the right way to make this research to make it credible. And if it doesn't have any credibility, no matter how good the research is, it doesn't matter, right? So even with the research, they have to be very careful as to who's conducting the research, because a lot of politicians' arguments are brought down by the opposition. They'll say, what do they attack? And they say the research is flawed.
Yeah.
So,
or in court cases, we always do that. We use the case law and we go like, well, according to this case law, this decision came down from Supreme Court, right, versus a lower court.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. So we use more credible sources, more recent cases, right? So all that falls under credibility.
It's exactly the same principles operating everywhere. No matter what you do, sometimes lawyers will use emotions to convince the jury, because the jury are a set of people. At the end of the day, how are they going to make that thing? decision. They're going to base it on emotions. So they'll appeal to those emotions and they'll sort of say, right, okay. Politicians, they're very good. They'll appeal to emotions of the people. You know, you must have heard, you know, our women especially, you know, and I'm sorry, I might be being sexist here. So our men and women, they go, somebody speaks to them very nice. I used to have this male friend of mine, and he used to think that the chief executive, you know, this person was very, very good to them. And he said, oh, look, you know, he rings me. Who am I? He rings me this time. And he said, I'm going to vote for him. Right? Just because he rang him. Not whether he was going to do anything. Nothing, whether what his policy was on housing, not what his policy was on education, not what his policy was on economy, not what his policy was on the social matters, but because he rang him.
Yeah, no, I completely see that. I mean, I have noticed that nowadays, even elections, any issue that you take, when it comes to deciding on a person that, okay, we are supporting this person, people are not basing it on the logic. They're basing it on emotion.
Sure.
Right?
So you look at all the Pakistani channels, ARY, GEO, they never discuss, right? The reason why they are running is not because they're news channels, it's because they're actually entertainment channels, right? They're very entertaining. They're not news channels, right? Don't ever fall into the trap that these are news channels. They are not. They are entertainment channels. And the reason why they're entertainment channels is because the subjects they choose are more appealing to the emotions. So it makes emotions that make somebody either happy or sad. There's a bit of tragedy. There's a love story. There's a villain. There's a, you know, and this. But they never discuss, for instance, right? If you look at many of the programs, they never discuss policy. They will always discuss, this person said this, what's your response to this? And this person said that, what's your response? It's like Pakistan loves it because we all love watching a drama on TV. We like these dramas and they appeal to us, you know, because we see ourselves there, right? You know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So it appeals to us. And the other thing is that the subconscious mind, it can't differentiate between facts or fiction. That's the other problem with the subconscious mind. You can feed it anything. So this is how they say that if you do this picture of all the things that you want and say, I have them, the subconscious mind cannot discern, it cannot calculate whether this is fact, this is true or false. It will always regard it as true. Whatever you feed the subconscious mind, it always believes it. The subconscious mind just absorbs it. So
it's automated per se.
Pardon?
It is automated. It's on autopilot.
Yeah. The person is on autopilot.
And it's taking in everything.
It's like this open.
Subconscious mind is like it's taking in everything.
But your 5% conscious mind, that can block things, right? The conscious mind, it can block things, but it only has 5% of the power. So 95% of your actions are determined by subconscious.
So in other words, what you're saying, changing the mindset, when we're talking about that, it's not about changing the conscious mind, but rather about changing the subconscious mind.
Bullseye. Well done, Shamir. Thank you for that. Okay, that's better put than I did. Yeah.
Okay, so that means that the information coming in, like, let's look at it as a large highway, traffic going in every which direction. There are good cars, bad cars, you know, cars that are driving randomly and cars that are going within the lines, right? Everything is coming through, and it's the information highway, right? The information is coming through, good and bad both, right? So how does an average person distinguish what part of that information to take into the subconscious mind or allow into the subconscious mind?
It all goes in. Every bit of it goes in.
But that's a scary thought, then. That's a really scary thought.
It's a very scary thought, and it's reality. It's also reality, right? So let me give you another example. You know, when you're watching a soap drama or a film, let's say you're watching a film, right? So, you know, some people start crying, right? Some people, they go watch a horror movie in the cinema and they scream, right? What is that? We know this is a film. our conscious mind knows this is a film. But guess what? The conscious mind is only 5%. The 99% subconscious mind thinks this is real. Right? So you start to cry and you start saying, no, the villain, stop him. And you start getting involved in the film, in the picture, because the subconscious mind is thinking, this is really happening. Right?
Yeah.
So you start, your eyes, they have tears, but this is not real. So why are the eyes crying? Why?
I'll ask you a question that's kind of similar to what came first, egg or the chicken.
Okay.
Right? Because subconscious mind is created based on the experiences. Right?
No, the subconscious mind is a part of you. It's a part of your makeup as a human being.
No, but where did it come from? Right?
No,
as a child.
It's like you have lungs, you have a mind, you have a mind, the brain. The brain, it's the studies of the brain. The studies of the brain have shown there's a subconscious mind and there's a conscious mind, right? So scientists have discovered that these two elements exist.
No. I understand that those two elements exist. What I'm trying to understand, what I'm trying to decipher here is per se a subconscious mind. How does it formulate, right? Because let me go a little bit deeper into this question, right? I was under the assumption or perspective that we are individuals based on our experiences. So let's say information is coming through. Same amount of same information, exact same information coming to me versus coming to you would be different. Why? Because your experiences and my experiences are different. Hence, your subconscious mind and my subconscious mind is interpreting that same information in a different way.
Yep. So it can do that. It can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fact is that subconscious mind is influencing our behavior in both ways, in both areas. Okay. So my genetic, I did sort of see there's belief, culture, genetics, environment, experiences. You call them experiences. Your experiences. There's certain things. So, for instance, right, when you're a baby, right, your subconscious mind is completely open. Okay.
Yeah.
This is why they say sometimes they play classical music, right, or play classical music when the baby's there. If it moves, right, it's going to be intelligent or whatever. They used to do this test, but the main thing is they say feed it good sounds. Why do they do that now? Scientists always say, and they say when you have a baby, put it in a good environment. Don't shout around it. Don't do this. Don't do that.
It reminds me, the first thing you do with the baby is do azan in the baby's ear.
What's all that?
In Muslim culture, right?
All science, because what Allah is saying is, I want this to go in their ears. So when they're conscious of their belief, they're conscious of the fact that they're going to be Muslim. Now it's gone into them when they were a baby. They couldn't stop it. Right? Any other sounds as well. So some children, they suffer trauma. So for instance, right, that's the positive. A positive thing. The azan's gone in. Good, positive. But the negative side, Shamoon, is, and it's very serious for us because I work with a mental health organization, is what if the husband and wife constantly fighting? What if the baby only hears negative sounds? Yeah?
Yeah.
We have lots of children in care because they were brought up in that way. They don't know how they're behaving. So they might be wetting themselves. The only thing that they know is their cot, because their parents only just kept them in the cot. So when they want to hide somewhere, they go in the cot. The only time they see they don't like the light too much because they were kept in the dark most of the time. So all of this
that reminds me of this little experiment that was done.
Sure.
And of course, we're talking about mind, and we don't think plants, even though they're living things, don't have mind. No, but there was an experiment done where there was. Okay, so there we go. Because there was an experiment done where two plants, same seeds, same exactly everything, both kept in the very same way, except for one difference. One was always encouraged, like, your beautiful plant, your amazing plant, right? Other one was told, you're bad plant, you're useless, you're annoying, right?
Yeah, it's
The
true. It
growth.
works. It works. My wife, she talks to the plants, and I'm telling you, Shamoon, all you come to our house and you'll see the plants. So, and she talks to every one of them, and she has regenerated dead plants. Regenerated dead plants, and I'm so thinking, and she says you have to talk to them. They're living things. They're a living organism. You have to talk to it. So it's a living organism. It's a growing thing. So you talk to it. So she talks to the plants. I don't. I mean, I just water them. I don't even talk to the animals. We have animals, budgies as well. Small birds as well, and the cat. I used to talk to the cat though. I used to talk to the cat. Yeah. The cat. The cat was.
I have a cat and a dog, and I talk to my cat and a dog.
There you go. There you go. This is it.
But again, like dogs tend to react to your commands, so you feel more like they're listening. But a plant that's not necessarily going to react to you on an instant.
No.
Right. So that also, I think, shows us that impact of your words or information coming into your mind, into your subconscious mind, may show results much later.
Sure.
Much later in your life.
There's another example of the human being. If you remember Helen Keller, have you studied
Helen Keller?
Yes, Helen Keller.
Yes. Yes.
Have you studied? Well, Helen Keller, how did she learn everything? She couldn't hear, couldn't see, and she couldn't. So how did she learn everything? By touch. By touch. Because she was still a human being, the brain was still okay. She just didn't have her physical senses, not her mental senses. Her mental senses are perfectly fine. She just didn't have the physical senses. Do you see that? So sometimes, right, they may not have the tongue to express anything. They may not have the ears to the ears to show you that we've got ears, but they have them. They're intact. Everything's intact, and they're listening. Everything's going in, because sometimes it's like data that's coming into you. So, for instance, right, the data that comes into us comes in various forms. So it can come in terms of vibrations also, right? So, for example, they did this experiment in the middle of a marketplace in England, and they had various non-Muslims come and listen to the recitation of the Quran. Okay, so and those non-Muslims, they said we found peace within the recitation. Now they're non-Muslims; they don't even believe in. They've not had azan, but those very vibrations of the sound. Don't forget how sound transmitted. Sound is transmitted by vibrations. So the recitation, the Arabic words within the Quran, they're very vibrations. If they're spoken properly, if they're recited properly, they will give your body peace. It's just because they're hitting those particular parts of your sort of makeup as a human being, and they're calming them down. They're calming them down, like they say. So for instance, now they've also invented these clocks or these stations which help calm you down, like running water. Running water is another one. So running water, that's also calms you down as well. So I had this. I think my wife, the doctors once they gave her this contraption, and it had sounds of water, and you just used to relax. Yeah.
Like people have Zen gardens. People have Zen music.
Absolutely.
Zen. What's it? Sense.
Yeah. So this is what they're saying, that with the Arabic words and the recitation of the Quran, that also has an effect on a human being. That it calms them, it will calm them down. And it'll make them feel peaceful, even though they can't understand the words. And the thing is, it's because of the very vibrations of the words are very important. So they're being constructed, and this is why some people sort of say this is another reason why this is the word of God, because who knows what vibrations affect a human being in a particular way? Would the Holy Prophet have known how these vibrations affect us in a different way? He wouldn't have. It's got to be somebody who knows more than just It's got to be God. It's got to be something bigger that knows how these vibrations work. So the thing is that those are sometimes the arguments that they use as well.
I'm gonna come to another point here, changing the
subject
direction a little bit.
Sure.
So now you also had earlier mentioned in this same show that hope is critical for our development.
Sure.
Now I have been of a mindset that hope is good. It's amazing thing, but it's very often confused with expectation. And expectation is a very, very bad thing. It's a very evil thing, right? So hope, while it sets us up for success, expectation 90% of time sets us up for failure. So do you have anything to say about that?
I'd say that was a mindset. That's just a mindset. Okay. So if I go back to the Holy Prophets of East, it's about the focus. If I go to the modern day version is law of attraction. So wherever you think about it, you're going to attract it. Okay. So if you're expecting this, it's going to happen, right? Stop expecting it. So my thing is stop expecting it, right? If you don't want it to happen, stop expecting it. And the more you think about it, you're expecting it, right? So sometimes it works that way as well. So to have expectations is also good to actually get something, but you have to use it in a particular way. It's a tool to use rather than we don't ever deny anybody their expectations when we're conducting when I'm doing a consultation and when we're bringing out a new policy or as politicians we're sort of saying, right, this is what we're going to do. What we have to do is manage the expectations, but the expectations are a very motivational force, right? Those expectations make people act in a particular way. So if they have that expectation, but you have to learn on the other side, you have to learn it's not a bad thing, but it's a good thing that needs to be managed. So it's like food. Yeah. It's like food. If I have too much food, I'm going to be sick, right? I can only eat one chapati during lunchtime, and if I have two, I'm going to be sick, right? And then that must be stupid. Expectations works exactly in the same way. You have to manage
let me put it this way, right? So when I'm saying expectation, yeah, what I'm saying is what I mean by expectation, and the difference between hope and expectation, what I understand to be, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, is expectation is where you are expecting something and it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, you're devastated, right? So if you're expecting that your girlfriend or wife is going to wish you happy birthday on your birthday and she doesn't, you'll be extremely upset, right? Even though she might have forgotten, right? Same thing with the job. You're expecting a promotion, but you don't get it, someone else gets it, right? So now you're upset, you may even resign because you expected that was supposed to go to you. Now hope, on the other hand, is in the positive context. So hope is, I hope to get that position, but in that context, if you don't, you wouldn't be upset. But if you do, you'll be like, yeah, see, I hoped for it and I got it, it's amazing, I'm so blessed, right? Same thing with the girlfriend or wife, right? She wishes you and you were hoping that she does, and now you're very happy, right? So that's where I distinguish hope and expectation, right? So when we go with that definition of hope and expectation, what do you say about it?
In terms of that, I think it is down to definitions. I think the thing is that in terms of the expectations in those kind of ways, the way that I've normally tackled certain individuals is to, when I'm doing the training, is to sort of say where has that expectation come from? Okay, why should that expectation exist in the first place? To have expectations is good, all right? But to have certain expectations where you're feeling it's your right, where has that come from? Okay, why should that be there? When somebody is hoping for it and you're expecting it, why should you expect it and the other person's hoping for it? So my thing is, my question, I would then sort of question the person and say, well, maybe why have you, somewhere along the line they've developed a mindset which says that they deserve this more than anybody else.
There you go.
They deserve to have this. So somewhere in their mindset, somewhere in their history, somebody put it into them that this is yours.
Yeah. So that reminds me of Donald Trump now.
Yeah. There you go.
He expects to win the election. So even if he loses, he's not leaving the White House.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's kind of like got an expectation, but his expectation is based on the fact that he so for instance, when I said to you, his expectation could be based on the fact that he doesn't like to lose, right? So he has a mindset which says I can't bear to lose, right?
Yeah.
And he might be the kid who might have always got what he wanted from his parents, right?
Yeah.
So he believes that why shouldn't I have this? I want this, right?
Yeah.
I've always had what I wanted, so
Yeah.
I'm expecting this now. Yeah. See
Interesting.
where the expectations come from.
Continuing with the same topic, we
Go
have
on.
very little time left. I want you to close off today's show. So tell us the conclusion. And before you give the conclusion, I just want to let the viewers know next week, continuing with this similar topic, now that we have the results from the elections in US, we'll have discussion about Donald Trump and Trumpism. And I have also invited a guest who is a psychotherapist. A lot of our viewers probably already know her, Poonam Zahur, who has made her name with her shows in psychotherapy. So we would have her input in this too. So perhaps next week we can do that show. We would probably want to change the time of the show because we are talking from 3 different countries.
All right.
And 3 different time zones.
Okay.
So it would be quite late in Pakistan where Poonam is. So we would have to probably change our time, but it would be on Saturday. And it would probably be like maybe 2 or 3 hours earlier.
Sure.
So if that's okay with you.
That should be okay. Sure. As long as I know the timing. As long as I know the
just wanted to put that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So just so that our viewers know too. So keep posted, keep up with viewing the channel. Now, I just want you to bring us to the conclusion for the show today, Mr. Nadeem.
Yeah, my thing is to leave you with a saying from Rumi that he's in terms of mindsets, that he said that when I was yesterday I was very learned and I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise and I want to change myself. Changing somebody else's mindset starts with changing your own mindset first and saying, where have I got it wrong? And therefore you will get an idea as to how to change other people's mindsets as well. But the mindset has to start with you.
Yeah, beautiful. After all, the only person we do have complete control on is us.
Absolutely.
Right? So we cannot expect other people to change according to our will when we cannot even change ourselves according to our will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, that's perfect. So I think we had a wonderful show.
No, thank you. I've enjoyed it today as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm hoping viewers have enjoyed it. I would welcome any show ideas anyone has that wants to send us any show ideas.
After the Trumpism one, after the Trump one, we can do one on the power of focus.
Interesting. Sure. So yeah, no, we will definitely, as every week, I think we will let the new viewers know what would be the next show. Absolutely. So that the viewers are tuned in. And we will encourage viewers to give their inputs. You're always welcome. After all, the objective of our show is not just for us to talk, but to share our experiences and knowledge for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of everyone else. And that means that we are not the only ones with experiences, right?
No.
So we appreciate and welcome any input from any of our viewers that want to give us input. So
very good. Absolutely.
So yeah, maybe you can change our mindset.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So my closing to today's show would be that I have, with today's show's help and also with my life, I've learned that you have to be always learning and always keeping your direction towards positive things.
Absolutely.
No matter how small or how minute something may be, if you do it in a positive way or if it's towards the positive things, then you should keep up with it.
And
So
always try and look for the positive in somebody else also. Always
exactly. Look for positives.
And that
Exactly.
makes you maintain your own positivity. If you look for the
Yeah.
positive in others, yeah.
Surround yourself with positivity.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the show for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like, share, and comment, and we will meet you again next week on the same day, perhaps 2 or 3 hours earlier next week. Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
Well, thank you.